Welcome to A Tale of Two Scribes. I'm your host, Eric P. Bishop. This is a podcast where interesting people come and tell about the stories they've crafted. As for myself, I'm an author. I've created novels, short stories, novellas, and even poetry. If you'd like to find out more about what I've done, please go to my website, ericpbishop.com. Thanks, and enjoy the journey. Welcome to another episode of A Tale of Two Scribes. And tonight, I have the pleasure of having Morgan Shamy with me. Hi, Morgan. How are you?
Great. So happy to be here.
I'm super honored to have you. I have been interacting with you on social media for a little while now, watching your journey, and just as a fellow author who's gone through a few things as well, it's encouraging to watch other authors' journeys and see what they go through, and then especially as hard as that journey is for all of us, I don't care who it is, it's super exciting to see the success, especially like with what you're experiencing now with your latest release.
Great. Thank you. Yes,
Yeah,
very excited. I even brought a copy to show.
I
Look
hope
how
so.
beautiful that is.
There
Oh,
you
it's so
go.
beautiful.
The Stricken looks great. So let's dive into the Stricken. Is it your sixth or seventh book?
It's my sixth book.
Sixth book.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Very,
And
very proud of it.
so talk about the concept behind kind of maybe how it came to be, what the process was for people that are looking to follow your example and get a book out there.
Yeah, what's crazy is this book was actually the first book I ever wrote.
Wow.
And I believe it was 14. Online I keep saying 13, but I think it's 14 years now that I wrote this book.
Wow.
And, I tried for years to get a literary agent,
Hmm.
and I got super close so many times with finding a publisher for it. And it took 14 years, but it's finally out in the world. Even though it's my sixth book, it just
Hmm.
took that long to percolate. And it's got huge world building. So it honestly needed that amount of time to settle, to really
Hmm.
find the voice and the story and to get it right. And I'm glad it didn't get a deal right away because now it is what it is and it's what it's meant to be.
Right, 100%. Yeah, I think that's kind of a struggle because when you create something in that instance, at least for me, I don't know for every author, but you finish something and hopefully you think, man, this is the best thing I've done so far. And it's like a child. You're a mom, I'm a dad. You're proud of your kids, and then when it doesn't go anywhere, that disappointment sets in. And I do think that there's definitely instances in my writing career, and obviously in your writing career, where it happened for a reason, and that time that it took until it came out into the world only made it a better product.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
for sure. I'm
Um,
really glad I didn't have success early on because I needed to grow as a writer. I'd probably regret a lot of work that was out there in the world right now if I hadn't had time to grow.
if it's if
So,
if it came too fast.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a universal thing. I've talked to a lot of people about it over the years, and one thing I've said is that you don't typically see, and it happens, there's always exceptions to every rule, but you don't typically see very young people, early 20s or anything like that, kinda getting into the literary world and being successful, which a lot of times you find is it's people that have written multiple books and they've spent years getting rejection, and you find your voice. My We were talking offline, Body Man, that was the 4th book I created. I guarantee you when I finished the 1st book in 2014 in Yosemite, I thought I thought easy streets coming. Here we go.
It's so true.
Then I started pitching. Then I started pitching an agent and multiple agents, but I didn't do very many because I didn't know. I was very ignorant. I wanted to. I think I hit my mid 30s. Hit my midlife crisis early, maybe. And I was, corporate America doing this job. And I said, what do I want to do with my life? It's like I've always wanted to write novels. And I have a folder still on my computer of old stuff I started and never finished. So 2014, I still really started in 13, but 2014 is when I said, I will finish this book. And it only took me like 3 months, which is probably why I didn't get published because I didn't know what I was doing. But man, when I finished that story, I thought, here it comes. Here's Easy Street. Furthest from the truth. Furthest from the truth. It's still on the same computer I'm talking to you. It's still on the same hard drive.
Yes.
And that's good. That's okay. because that experience got me to where I needed to be literally 7 years later before I signed a book contract and had my fourth novel, which ended up becoming my debut novel, out.
Yes.
And you've
Yes.
had similar, I know just following your social media, maybe, a synopsis version of you've had a similar struggle with your experience where you gotten agents and the agents haven't been able to, get you on or sell anything on sub and gone through multiple agents and talk about your experiences to where you are
Yeah.
now.
I could talk for about 5 hours on this topic.
As long
I
as you'd like to, but
I
there's a
know.
lot of stuff to
Okay,
talk about.
buckle up, everyone. Here we go. It was about my third book that I wrote that I got my first literary agent,
Mhm.
and she was phenomenal. We got along really well. We're still best friends to this day.
Mhm.
She could not sell my book. She didn't quite have a vision for
Yeah,
my stories, and she kind of changed my voice, which I wasn't too pleased with.
right.
And we came to an agreement where we were going to part ways after 2 years of not finding a home for this book.
Yeah.
About 5 months later, I think I found another agent and got
Mm.
another agent. Went through the same thing, went on submission to all the big editors,
Hmm.
and she was a horrible communicator.
Oh
So
no.
I left her. Oh my gosh, it was horrible. Everyone's amazing, but you just have to find the right match,
Right. 100%.
And then yeah, I after I left my second agent, I went through a dark period and I kind of stopped, because that makes you feel like a failure.
Yeah.
Major, major failure. And I think a lot of writers don't realize how common this is, that people are leaving their agents. And
Right. 100%.
yeah, it happens a ton. And
Yeah.
but I did. I eventually pulled myself together and I decided to try again. And I got my third agent and we went on sub and I knew this was it. I was going to get my dream deal. And I did not.
You did not.
I did not. So we parted ways. It was during the pandemic. And I think she just kind of broke a little bit and publishing dropped and everything
Yeah.
stopped.
Right.
It was a hard time for everyone.
Hmm.
So then I found someone else and I've been very happy. I've been able to get some books out there and some good deals, and I've been very pleased. But, it's been over a decade of this up and down and back
Yep.
and forth. I mean, every writer out there, knows how horrific and heart-wrenching and hard it
Hmm.
is. And I was like you, after I finished my first book, I was like, this is great. I'm talented. This is going to be
Absolutely.
easy. I was so delusional.
Why don't more people do this? What in the world?
Yeah. So anyway, but like I said earlier, I am glad for the journey I've had. I am jealous. I started out with a core group of friends, and they truly, four of them are now New York Times bestsellers, and one has a Netflix deal, and they're doing amazing things. And so I struggled kind of being like, the loser in the corner compared to everyone else. But I am grateful for the successes that I'm having, and I do feel like finally I'm seeing some good things for not stopping.
Well, I think too that you would agree that what you've seen with as long as it's taken and seeing other people that have achieved that level of success, there's a few takeaways that most people should have is that first of all, yes, probably that it's hard. And you think it's going to be easy and maybe it's good that it's not. I don't know. There could be some really positives that even come from failure or from lack of success. I think the hunger that that can give you to do better or to push harder is definitely there. But also, seeing those other people get that success is a reminder that it's out there. And you don't know when your time is going to come. You don't know if your time is going to come, but I do believe that life kind of requires you to be positive because if you're negative, I think that manifests itself in a lot of different ways in your life, and I think you're going to get exactly what you think you're going to get. You're going to get negative if you put that out there, but I think if you can find a positive, then not that you create your reality, anything like that, but I do think that you can by having those negative feelings or the positive feelings, I think you can change your reality because that will affect how hard you work or whether you push. And so, man, if a friend gets a Netflix deal, guess what? You might be the next friend to get the Netflix deal that someone else is like, like me. I'll be like, oh, Morgan got, why isn't The Body Man getting picked up by Tom Cruise and put on Netflix? Well, it's because Tom's busy doing another freaking Mission Impossible movie and he hasn't called me yet. So, but no, that's an encouragement for people. So, and the fact that you've stuck with it and you've pushed for 10 years has got you to where you are. And really the sky's the limit. And I know just following you on social media, your book launch for the Stricken. I mean, you've had some really cool things that have happened. You've had, selling and people that are coming and what Katherine Heigl. There's a picture of Katherine I think I saw on social media recently. So I mean, who's to
Yeah.
say someone doesn't see your book and says this needs someone in Hollywood to do something with this.
There's something here.
There's
The
something.
timing with that was astounding. I sold out within 20 minutes at that Barnes and Noble signing.
Wow.
So for Catherine to walk in, in that small time frame and be able to get a signed book from me
Mhm.
was, I mean, it was incredible, really cool.
And did she just
Hopefully,
happen to be there?
she just happened to be there. She just walked in,
That's
saw
great.
me, wanted a signed copy, and purchased it. And kind of crazy, kind of surreal. So waiting for that movie, Dell.
You never know though.
You
Again,
never know.
you know people that have them. I think we both know enough about the industry too that, people think if I just get that movie deal, everything's going to be good. And it says
Oh,
maybe, maybe you'll be good, but maybe they'll spend the next 10 years not producing. So to me though, I don't look at that as a negative. People go, "Oh, then why would you even try or why would you get excited about something?" It's because you don't know what the next day will bring you. It's kind of like when you're struggling with when you're writing and you're not sure maybe where to go for the next chapter. And sometimes you just put it down for a little bit and you pick that up because you don't know what's going to spark or what you'll do that will spark something. I don't know for you, I'm curious to know what you do, but like for me, I normally just go out in nature. Like this weekend, I just went out and I hiked and I probably did about between Saturday and Sunday. I didn't have my kids this weekend, so I was probably did about 12 miles. Um, but that gave me a lot of ideas for things that are percolating that I'm working on once I'm done editing my current book to get to the editor, that I can dive back into those. So what's it like for you creatively when you're in that spot where you're like, ah, what do I do or where do I go? How do you get that fire started again?
yeah. Honestly, all it takes is stepping outside. It's leaving your space, leaving
Hmm.
your home, even if it's just a car ride to go pick up the kids from school and having the wind blowing through the windows and just having that fresh air. It resets you, you know. If you're behind your computer and just editing and stressed about other people and your own goals and desires and you're just so focused,
Hmm.
you're going to lose happiness and you're
Yeah.
going to lose inspiration and the ability to work.
Yep.
So you need to step away and look at the clouds and smile and
Are you the
yeah.
type of person that can write anywhere? Or do you
No,
no, okay.
I need a window. That's kind of the only
Okay.
thing I need. I just need a window. As long as I can see outside, I'm okay. And if it's gloomy and cloudy and raining and negative 40 degrees, that's better. That helps me.
It
So
does help you, really.
yes, I hate the sun. I loathe the sunshine. So
Oh.
that's why I loved living in Alaska. It was just gloomy every day. So
What you're breaking my vision of this. Alaska
no,
was
no.
gloomy? Oh no.
Oh, it was amazing.
Okay.
So,
Well, hmm. Well, I hope when I go it's really sunny.
okay. Go during the summer. You'll
Go
like
during the
it.
summer.
It never gets dark there in the summer.
Yeah, that's something I've been into Canada, but I've not been far enough north to really experience anything like that. Like I've not seen the Aurora Borealis or my
Oh,
my my list of places to go is so long and I'm not knocking them out fast enough. So I don't know. I've been getting that itch recently of like, okay, I got to do something. I need that big Netflix deal to come in so I can just map out the next 5 books that just happen to all take place in 10 different countries. So for IRS tax purposes, I have to travel to all those countries.
the dream. But at the same time, it's so funny because each goal, each dream that I've attained along my journey, I think I'm going to be satisfied, and I'm
Hmm.
not. There's
Yeah,
always something else, and I keep resetting those goals. And
right.
so it's very difficult to ever truly be satisfied. So it's something I'm continuously working on.
Hmm.
It's just be content that I get to have a journey at all.
Yeah.
Content, with finishing a book or with being able to write 5 pages that day or getting a deal or,
Mhm.
it's yeah.
I think though the from the writers I've known in my own experience is getting over that hump of getting that first book finished, published is massive. And I think though from once that happens, instead of being like, "Ah, I've got to the top of the mountain, I'm good," I think you realize you're at the bottom of the mountain.
Yeah.
I don't know what you got to get there, what you had to do to get there, but it wasn't really a mountain. It was probably the foothills. Now you're at the base of the mountain, and I did that. Like I had a novella come out last fall, and I didn't know what the feeling was going to be like when that came out because it was a lot of work. It was less pages than a novel, but so it was about a third of a novel, but it was a lot of effort. And that was the first one I had ever done on my own, where, under my own company. So I had to do everything and I hired out a lot of stuff, but I had to keep track of that and all that. And man, when I ordered that book and I got the first one, I was like, what's this feeling going to be like? Because I remember the feeling when The Body Man came out in November of 2021. And I mean, I cried. And
Yeah.
every time I picked up that book, I cried. And then after about a month, it, it still felt good, but I didn't have that emotion come, and it just got almost less and less. So I thought, oh, I'm gonna get this new book, and I'm gonna bawl like a baby again. No, not at all. Now I got a little misty and teary eyed the first, I think, when I opened the advanced copy, but when I actually got the final finished copy and it's out for publication, it was great experience, not a negative, but it was not at all what that first experience was. And I just said, okay, I kind of had to get myself in a gut check of going, okay, that's probably not going to happen again. Maybe that will happen when I'm sitting on my couch over there and I turn on Netflix and I go, all right, Tom Cruise, you're killing the body, man. Good job, buddy. Or George Clooney or whoever, someone that's willing to give me seven figures and, make my life easier. Maybe I'll get excited for that, but it gives me that hunger of going, okay, how do I find some sort of an exciting feeling in the process? And I'm the one too, though, that I enjoy all parts of the process. So typing the end is really kind of really exciting for me, but then getting that first advance copy and then going to book signings and doing that, all those are those milestones that they don't get old. The feelings might change a little bit, but they don't get old for sure.
Yeah.
How's
So
that been
well.
for you, especially with like the book signings? I mean, you've got a pretty this will probably air in about a month, but you're in the middle of it now, or in the crux of it, and it's going to go on for a little while. So what's that like for you?
Yeah, I've got a lot of signings set up until June.
Till
They're
June,
still
okay.
coming in. I got another one today. And yeah, lots of Barnes and Nobles, lots of indie bookstores,
Mhm.
and it's really fun. But honestly, I'm gonna show you this.
Please
This
do.
was probably the biggest moment, not even holding my books, but this was the biggest moment of my author career
Okay.
was seeing this.
It's
Yeah,
on my list. I have a list of one
I
of the
know.
things that says
Oh
the
my gosh,
Stricken made the cover
is
of Publishers Weekly.
yeah, on the cover of Publishers Weekly. Like
Yeah.
this was the moment of
I,
my
I
writing.
bet your friend with the Netflix deal doesn't have that. So,
Nope, she doesn't.
exactly.
Everything else, but
Could afford to pay probably for their own cover on something like that, but that's okay.
oh,
So,
I'm so sorry. I jumped ahead of the game. So yes.
so how did that happen? What's the story behind that, or did it just out of
Um,
the blue? Did you hear
I
about
I
it?
didn't even know. The
Okay.
day it came out, my publisher's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, we're sending you a copy of this. This happened." I'm like, "What?"
Wow. So
I
it's a
didn't
total
even
surprise.
understand. Total surprise. I had no idea. So yeah, really cool.
That's
Big.
when you need to get a shadow box, or you'll need something there to have a display to I was on the Big Thrill a couple of years back, and it's sitting on the wall over there, and I printed it out and got it framed. And I also do a can't see it from this angle. I do a not a full like 24 by 30, I forget what the dimensions are, but I do kind of a three-quarter size book cover, and I frame them and I
Oh,
have them on the wall
genius.
of each book. Just in, I don't know, just to look up, and as much as I have the physical books and I give out copies or I sell copies at signings, to look up every day and see those posters. Again, that kind of gets me that like, hey, you started this in 2014 and struggled with it for years. And I kind of just look up, not every day, but on a regular basis and be like, that's why you kept pushing. That's why you kept pushing. And guess what? If you got to build another house and have more walls, keep hustling to get more covers up there. Um,
Yeah.
Keeps me motivated. Keeps me hustling.
And honestly, I think the greatest thing about this whole process, truly, and this, I don't want to be cheesy, but the whole process, the rejection, the tears, the heartache, it changes you
Hmm.
as a human being.
Yeah,
It makes you a better person, as long as you don't become one of those bitter woe is me writers out there.
right.
But it's like, you know what? I do have to learn. I do have to grow. I do need to search inside myself and see how I can make myself better and my writing better and step it up. And yeah, I
Right.
don't know everything. It
Exactly.
How does it not make you a better person,
Hmm.
in all ways of your life,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, again, the only time it doesn't is we were talking off air, I think about it though, is where if you have a negative attitude about it. So if you go to the place and stay at the place, because I think you're going to go there as a human being, you're going to say, this sucks. I've worked hard. This agent rejected me, or this agent loved this book and this agent can't sell the book. And I get another agent, they can't sell the book. What's wrong? And if you focus and it's always just a negative and you go, I'm not going to do this again. Well, that's the way you fail. That's the way you fail is if you don't get up and say, because maybe that book won't get published, or maybe you'll have to self-publish the book, and there's nothing wrong with that. But um, that's the one thing I learned years ago because I went to a bunch of conferences. I've got several of them down here on my bookshelf. Read, a bunch of books on how do you get published and what's the thing. And the only thread that I really saw through all the conversations was that the people that actually make it, the people that are on the New York Times bestseller list or not even making the list, are putting books out. The only thread that ties them all together is they didn't quit.
Yeah.
They kept pushing. And I have next to the one of the covers there. I have a framed signed quote from my favorite author, who's Brad Meltzer. And he said, don't let anyone tell you no. And I was going through a hard time years ago where I was just getting rejection. And I went to one of Brad's book events and I knew him kind of sort of online before the event, but that was the first time I actually met him. And I'm sitting through his speech, and he's a very kind of, or not choreographed, but I guess so. He kind of will give the same thing as he goes to all his book events, and he draws hundreds of people. So it's not, one person showing up. He gets 300, 400, 500 people. Well, he was telling the story of how he got published, and he got to the spot where he said the thing he learned, and he kind of paused and kind of looked over in the crowd, and I swore to God, he looked at me and said, "Don't let anyone tell you no." And I kind
Mm.
of looked at the guy next to me. I had no idea who he was from Adam. And I said, he's talking to me. And the guy's kind of like, yeah, sure, kid, whatever you think. Well, I wait until the end because I've got to meet my hero. So I think I had to wait like 2 hours. I waited to the end of the line. And he ended up being super generous, spending about 15, 20 minutes with me talking. Um, and first thing I said to him, he gave me a hug first thing, which was amazing. He called me over, he gave me a hug. And then I said, don't let anyone tell you no, huh? He goes, I was talking to you. I said, I knew you were talking to me. I knew it. And so I made sure I framed that up, mailed it to him after the fact, had him sign it. And again, that's another thing that's sit on my wall. And if I have those hard moments where I'm like, publisher's going out of business, or this is happening, or man, how am I going to get my Bruno Media Publishing out there and get these books out there? I look at it and go, okay, well, it's up to me. It's up to me to not let that door slam in my face. And if it does slam in my face, what am I going to do about it? Am I going to accept that no? Am I going to find a way to make it a yes? And again, life is so much like that, even apart from writing. It's how hardships are going to happen to everybody. How do you handle them?
Yeah.
Because we all have to find our way to handle them, and we handle them in different ways. But the people that succeed in life, and I think that are happy in life, find a way over across those hurdles and through those hardships. that come their way.
Yeah. Those big moments, they're great, but they don't bring happiness.
Right.
They really don't. They don't. Like, it's like, oh, this is great. I accomplished a goal, but does it truly bring deep down happiness?
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's so fleeting, you
Yeah.
know?
And I think that's a good analogy for life. I mean,
Yeah.
so many things in life that you build yourself up to be, this is going to be the greatest thing in the world. You've got four kids?
For kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Four kids. I have two. And our kids really are the greatest things to ourselves. But,
Yeah.
like with anything, after you have the kids, it's a lot of work. And the kids get sick. And guess what? Well, poor you in your case, because they're probably going to you. They go to mom. I'm just dad. Dads are normally like, we're also not very comforting. In the middle of the night when the kids are throwing up, we might scratch the back, but we're kind of like, can we go back to bed now? I mean, you're gonna be okay. Versus mom will, swaddle them in and cuddle them, and
Dig
dads are
deep
kind of
and
like,
vomit.
really, kid. Oh,
Yeah.
it's too funny. Speaking of, let's talk a little bit creative stuff outside of writing. I want to get back to some writing stuff because I want to talk about some of the earlier books and some of the different series you've worked on. But from a creative standpoint, you didn't start writing. You started in the arts though, and you started as a ballerina, right?
Correct. That
So
was my life completely.
your life, exactly.
Yeah. 6, 7 hours a day, every day,
Wow.
just very immersed. That was my profession.
Hmm.
So, but then, you have kids and life changes, and I knew I wouldn't be dancing anymore like that. I was teaching, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
I think we have a need to create, all of us writers. It's like something deep
Hmm.
in us. You need to create, you need to give something to the world and make something beautiful and
Right.
feel like you're doing something. So
100%.
yeah, yeah, I found writing, and I'm kind of sad I found writing, but I'm also happy. I don't know.
You're
I
sad
don't
when
know
you found
that
writing, when you
balance.
realized, dang, this is hard. I thought dancing was hard. What in the world?
Oh, I didn't have any heartache with dancing like I have with writing. Way
Yeah.
more difficult. The mental,
Well,
I mean, dancing's hard with the mental game and the competition and the physical strain, but nothing compared to writing, honestly.
yeah.
Truly.
Well, and I know nothing about dancing, and I have two left feet, so I'm definitely not. I definitely wouldn't dance very well if I had to. But with something like dancing, it's all. I know there's like you can be judged, and there's competition element that can be. So an outside voice has something to say, but all the pressure is on you. Learn the moves, get the strength, have it between the ears working right. It's everything you do. Writing, up to a point, it's all on you. And then you give that baby over to someone, and you have no control. You have no
Okay.
control if they're going to say this is the best. Hemingway was a loser compared to you. No, chances are they're going to be like, you're a loser. And you're like, I just spent a year of my life writing this and you're telling me I suck. And they're like, oh yeah, you suck. And those are what all those rejection they're emails nowadays. If you even get a response,
Yeah.
that's normally, we're not interested, or this doesn't fit our, what we're looking for. It basically, inside you, what you feel like is you feel like you suck. I failed.
It can affect your self-worth for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
100%. 100%. That's though why you keep going, and that's why you celebrate those achievements when they happen. And I completely agree with you. It was all of that is fleeting. Like I was talking earlier, and I got to my first book, man, it was such a feeling. Now it doesn't work that way with the future books. So you need to find something else that's gonna kind of give you kind of that endorphin push or whatever you guess you could say.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
besides the dancing, you're also were a pianist, right?
Yeah. 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 Very pretty hardcore pianist too.
Okay.
So that was my major in college. And I'm a piano teacher right now to bring in income. And yeah, music, dance. A lot of my books actually have to do with music and dancing. So it's been really, really fun to incorporate that onto
To
the page.
incorporate. Yeah, absolutely. No, I thought that was when I was reading some of the synopsises, as I saw you online and was, kind of going through Amazon and stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then you kind of connect the dots of, and I love when people do that. I put things that have occurred in my life and my stories and maybe places I've been and all that. But because mine are more like political thrillers or assassin, or I don't kill people, I don't run for office and stab people in the back. So a lot more of that is just that wild imagination, which nowadays in our current climate of this world, I don't know how you make stuff up anymore. I'm getting to that point of it's like like with everything that's happened in the last 4 years in the country, if you had pitched some of that as a novel 10 years ago, an agent would have mocked you. Now you literally can go read the headlines for a day, sit down and write a thing, and they're kind of like, ah, that's old news. That was in the New York Times last week, and you're like, where do I
Crazy.
where do I go?
Yeah.
I guess
It's
you
hard to
just
be
do what you're
original for
doing, and
sure.
you write ghosts. You have some ghosts, and you have some dancing, and you have some of those interests in there.
I do. And I think I know there's the expression like write what you know. And
Hmm.
I think I agree with that and disagree to some extent. But honestly, because I do know it, it does translate quite easily, I believe, across the page. You know, my trilogy takes place at a musical prodigy school, you know, so
Yes.
and I know so much about music and just I was able to make that feel authentic and real. And then lots of my other books have dancing and, you know, ballet. And so yeah, the Stricken actually is the only one without music, without dance, and I still pulled it off, so I'm pretty proud of myself.
Well, that probably shows your growth as an author, as probably when you got started in, those first three, four books, you're drawing much more from your experience. And as you do that, and as your creativity grows, um, you don't know where you're going to go with it. And also, I think you get better at it. So you can step outside your lane a lot easier and be successful at it.
Yes, yes,
So
agreed. Yeah.
because people don't realize that to get to the, again, there's always the anomaly of someone writes a book and life's made, which life's not really made, because the not the dirty secret on that, but say you're the 1% of the 1% and you get the big seven-figure deal out of the gate, you get the movie deal. I know multiple people that have gotten that in the last couple of years, and I don't envy that. I don't say, man, that was should have been me, anything like that. I go, man, that's awesome. But the downside on that is once you get that for your first book, the expectations for what you're going to do going forward can't go down.
Oh yeah.
So the publishers will not accept you to have this blockbuster hit and then your next book sells, 5,000 copies. Well, you sold 150,000 or 250,000 of your first book and your second one. Um, you better plan on a using a fictitious name going forward, because, and it's not going to be with that publisher either. You'll get dropped quickly. So,
Yes, yes. It's not what it seems. Knowing the stories I know with people who have made it, you
yeah,
know, their hardships are more than mine, and it's
right.
excruciating, and they're miserable so much of the time, even though we people will be outside looking in and think they're living the dream, but they're
Hmm.
not.
Yeah,
It's hard. I think
it
it's hard
is.
for every single one of us.
Yes, it is. And it's
Any stage.
degrees. It's the degrees. Someone asked me recently about being a New York Times bestseller, which is something I can't do with really small pub. Um, at least not any way that I know of. Maybe a mid-level pub you could get it, but they were asking me my opinion on it, and I said, would you want it? And I said, well, yeah, I'm not an idiot. That'd be a nice thing to be able to put on a book cover, New York Times bestseller, but that doesn't drive me. That's like less than 1% of my drives, not even really on a percentage scale. That doesn't, because like you were saying earlier, and I fully agree with your thought process on it, it's not going to satisfy me. I'm not going to then wake up every day and go, New York Times bestseller. If anything, it probably will work against me, because then I'll be like, oh crap, I'm a New York Times bestseller. So guess what they expect me to be in the next book?
Yeah.
Sell more copies.
Yeah. It's a
Because
lot of pressure.
once you get to number one, you can't go any higher. You can sell more copies and stay at number one. But man, if you start at number one and then your next book is number 12 on the New York Times bestseller list, and then you're down to 15, you're almost falling off the list. That puts a little extra pressure on you to deliver. And like it or not, it's a business. And the creative side of it is amazing. But once you learn the other side, which is the reality of what it is for a business, not so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough
Yeah.
for sure.
And you've had, so let's talk. The other thing I want to say is that before we leave the creative music pianist and all that, your daughter is quite talented as well. And I've seen the posts for her. And so gush on your daughter for a second.
Oh,
What's
please. I'd rather talk about her than any. Well, I love her story because it just tells us what we're all capable of.
Absolutely.
So she's a violist, but
Hmm.
she hadn't touched an instrument her entire life until she was 12 years old. It was
Wow.
during the pandemic.
Hmm.
She picked up the viola for the first time and immersed herself in it. We got her a teacher, an amazing teacher here in Utah, and within a year, she had won her first international competition. And I think now, 3 years later, she's
Hmm.
won 11 international
That's
competitions.
amazing.
She's
Wow.
crazy. She's a composer, and it's just, she's soloed at Carnegie Hall, at the Lincoln Center, at the Luxembourg Gardens in France, just everywhere. And just, she's having these incredible experiences, but it's because she's immersed herself.
Hmm.
She would practice sometimes 16 hours a day because she just wanted to be good so bad. You know, most of the kids her age start when they're 4.
Right.
Truly, that's when these incredible musicians start. I started when I was 4 with
Yeah.
my piano playing, and for her to start at 12 is very late in the game, but she has just sailed and excelled above so many because of her dedication and
Yeah.
her hard work, and it's been remarkable to see. She's inspiring to me, and oh, her name's Ariana Shamy. She is so gorgeous. Go find her Instagram and listen to her play or her YouTube, and I'm so proud. It's really fun. I love, obviously, my kids all the same, but like it's really fun to see her accomplished.
It's okay to have a favorite. My daughter will. I just have two, but so I always get away with the excuse of I have a favorite son and a favorite daughter. But my daughter will constantly be like, I'm really your favorite, right? And I'll be like, can't say that, And especially now, this is on a podcast, and her brother could technically watch this, so I
Oh,
cannot admit to that. So, but
yeah. And
it's
yeah,
it's
it's great.
amazing. It's amazing when our kids, whatever it might be, excel in it. My son, he started picking up guitar. He was probably 7 or 8, but really not messing with it too much. And just the last couple of years, he's really been invigorated and rejuvenated to get into it more. And he's starting to work on his own songs now. My aunt has gifted him two incredible electric guitars that most kids his age don't have. Uh, Les Paul and Stratocasters. They don't have those. So he's got some really amazing. When his 17th birthday was a few months ago, and he said, I'm buying a full cabinet and amp. And so I was like, because what do you want for your birthday? He's like, cash. So like, he asked everyone in the family for cash, and he got a pretty good chunk of cash from everyone and went out and bought himself exactly what he wanted. He's brought it over to divorced, so he's with his mom half time, with me half time, but he's brought it over here a few times, and he puts the volume, I think, on 3%, can shake the house. He goes, yeah, I could put this in an auditorium and I could rock out, Dad. And I'm just like, that's
Oh,
cool. That's cool. So just don't, try not to get it past 5%. We have neighbors, even though they're not super close. But to watch his dedication and to watch how much joy he gets out of it. And I mean, he sent me a video the other day of him just playing. And then the pride I feel for that of like, man, and it takes me back to what I've done myself in the regard of I wanted to write. Well, I had to put in the hard work. So he wants to play guitar, and guess what? He's now knowing he has to put in the hard work, just like with your daughter.
yeah. Yeah. It's so great to see kids immersing themselves in wholesome, good
Yep.
activities. It's great.
Yeah, he's not on his phone very. I catch him on it more in the last. He didn't get a phone until he was about 16, and never been on it very much. Recently, I see him on it more, but a lot of times he's watching videos on either. He's a black belt in karate as well, so he's watching karate videos or he's watching normally music related stuff. So he's not just sitting there. He doesn't have social media accounts or any of that. He yells at
Yeah.
me when I get on social media, is Dad, get off your phone. Like, I'm actually doing book promotion. This is my part-time gig.
I'm
And
trying to sell books.
yeah, they don't care. They don't care. They wanted copies. They wanted hardcovers. They got them and they were like, cool. Both of them. It's like I even mentioned it to my daughter the other day. Something came up about the book, and I was just like, "Well, you got a hardcover. I mean, you could read it if you want." She's like, "Dad, you told me it really wasn't appropriate for me to read." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's true. You're 12, and there's some bad words and some other stuff. Yeah, just okay. Maybe in a few years, just leave it on your shelf, and in a few years, maybe you can see what your dad has written." So, I have read her a few chapters before in the past, but to them, it's kind of like probably most people with their kids. I mean, celebrities have kids and famous musicians have kids, and most of the time the kids are kind of like, yeah, so dad's Eddie Van Halen, whatever. It's not that
So
big of a
great.
deal. Well, before we get back to the books, there's one other thing too. When I was looking at your bio, and I thought it was the coolest thing, is that your husband has won a gold medal in the X Games. So I mean, your family is dripping with talent. So what did your husband do to earn a gold medal in the X Games?
Oh, yes. He's kind of got one of those amazing stories too. He didn't start climbing until he was 14. And within a year of climbing, he already had his first sponsor. He was climbing the hardest routes. He was on the cover of Climbing Magazine. He took, let's see, the silver in the X Games when he was 17.
Wow.
And then he took the gold in the X Games for speed climbing when he was 18. And it wasn't just the speed climbing, but it was also the bouldering was part
Mm,
of the X Games back then too. So, and then won the World Cup in Italy. Just kind of an amazing climber.
wow.
And now he coaches. We have like a huge gym in our house. If I took my computer right now and walked you through my garage, you would freak out. We have an Olympic training wall that's on hydraulics that moves back and
Oh, that's
forth. And
awesome.
yeah, he coached Nathaniel Coleman, who took the silver medal at the Olympics. And so
Okay,
he was his
wow.
for years. So he's an amazing coach and he's still amazing, like 43 years old and just dominating the rocks outside and
Mm,
just super strong. And it's really fun to see him, accomplish his goals and dreams too.
absolutely. You want that
Yeah.
for him. Does he free solo? Does he or
No. Well, he
okay.
does bouldering. Bouldering, there's no ropes and things like that,
Yes.
but they're safe
Right.
boulders, but no free soloing. I'm too important to him. His kids are too
There
important
you
to him.
go. Good answer.
Yes.
Life
Yeah.
insurance doesn't matter that much. You want that
Oh,
you want that warm body, not that check. So
yes, please. Yes.
yeah, we so I was telling you offline, I took my kids to Yosemite this past summers, means a lot to me. It's where I finished my first novel, and
Yes.
I've been fortunate with just my job. Um is located one of the office I work out of frequently over the last several years is about 2.5 hours from Yosemite. So I've been able to go, either go early or go late, or sometimes I've been there through a weekend and my boss has been like, go do whatever you want to do, just, keep it reasonable. So it's like, man, can I camp at Yosemite? And of course he's like, yeah, that's cheap. Go camp in Yosemite, fool. Go ahead. But to me, that's been like an amazing experience. So I took my kids and I wanted to take them to the base, and I've done it a couple times myself. I want to take them to the base of El Capitan because
Yes.
if there's one spot you can go where you can start free climbing, and you don't get far. You get about 30 feet up, maybe 25, 30 feet up, and then you're at that spot where if you slip, you're going to get really hurt. Even though you could try to go further, most people are smart enough to not. So I've done it myself. So I took my kids. My daughter had no interest to do it. We brought my mom. My mom's 70. So she, of course, just stood there with my daughter. And my son and I start doing it. And of course, he starts trying to go up much higher than I would have gone up. And I'm like, dude, stop. Oh, I'm fine. I'm like, no, 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 you don't get it. I am not going to watch you fall off El Capitan. You have no equipment. You're not Alex. We're not doing the free solo movie on Disney again for you. Sorry, dude. So, but just to get him there and have that experience and be there on the rock. And when I went a couple of years back, I guess it was probably pre-COVID, I was standing where you shouldn't stand, right at the base, because if something breaks off or the climber's up there, your head's going to be the mat that it hits, so it's not good. But you could actually hear their conversations. So they're
Oh,
1,500 feet above you, and you can hear them talking, just the way it carried down. And one of the rangers came through at one point. That was not a ranger, he was a climbing guide, and he was kind of telling me about this. And he was telling me to watch this one group, and they were at this spot that you can't climb. You actually have to run along the rock, jump, and you're fully. hitched in, with ropes and you're tethered in or whatever the technical term is, but you have to jump up and grab this spot. He's like, yeah, watch him try to do that. It will probably take him a while. So I'm sitting there like my head's cranked up watching these people just run across the rock and jump and reach up and try to grab this little notch. And I'm just like, these people are crazy. Oh my
Yes, they
goodness.
are.
I'm just like, I don't I don't care how many there I could have 8 ropes holding me in a helicopter and this and that.
Oh, I know.
I'm good. I'll stay down here and I'll watch and I'll be like, good job.
Yeah. I'm glad my husband hasn't had any interest in the big walls. He does do, sport climbing where he gets up there,
He gets up
but
there.
not, the Al Capitan type things. Thank goodness. So,
That's definitely a good thing.
or
So let's dive back. Let's end in writing here. So Stricken is out. Obviously, you're going to be spending the next couple months and past that, obviously doing some promotion. But what's coming next? Is something in the works, or something will be in the works, or what's going on?
I highly doubt there's any Big Five editor watching this podcast right now.
You never know. That
You never
Tom Cruise
know.
will make sure they're watching it. Come on, Tom.
Oh, Harper Collins, like Macmillan, come on. Yeah, so I have finished the book that is the book for me.
Mm,
I've loved all the books I've written. I love The Stricken. That's special. It was my first book. I'm
yeah.
proud of it. It's doing amazing. But there is one book that is my heart,
Hmm.
and I've rewritten it, I don't know, 50 times,
Oh my
in,
goodness.
in the last. It's the book that got me my first agent.
Okay.
It got 7 offers of rep from so many agents, and it had so much potential, but I think I ruined it on my rewrite, with some notes that were given to me. So,
Gotcha.
but I've finally rewritten it, and it percolated for
Hmm.
years, and I am finally proud of it. And it's what it's supposed to be. And so I have given it to my current agent. I
Okay.
am waiting for her to give me final notes. And I really hope, we put it on sub and it finds a beautiful
Yes.
home. And I really, this is ridiculous, but I won't feel like an author until I hold that book in my hands, which is so stupid. Like, like all this stuff going on, but
Yeah.
I just, that's my dream right there, is to get that book published.
Understood.
And hopefully when it is published, I'll be satisfied. If I'm not, let's do another podcast.
I
Anyway,
think that's okay. You'll tell me the next one's really going to be it, Eric.
oh,
That is the one. But I
20
think
years later.
that's what keeps us going though. If that one gets published, which we're going to put some positivity out in the universe, and that one is going to get published, guess what? I mean, even if you get the massive deal, you're still going to want to write something else. You're not going to be like, call it a career. I'm just gonna wait for the grandbabies to come and just stare out a window the rest of my life. No, you're gonna want to. There's something inside of you. We all are wired that way as writers. That something inside us says, it's pretty good, is what I wanted to say, but
Yeah,
there's something else in me.
yeah,
And I don't ever want to get to a point in my life where, and I will, obviously, we all hit an end at some point, which is going to lead into my final question in a minute. But I don't want to get to that point where I'm like, I got nothing else to say. I've said it all. It's like that to me will be defeatist. That to me is like, man, really? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not Lestat from Anne Rice's world that I'm going to live to be hundreds and thousands of years old, and I've got a finite time on this life, and I don't think I'll probably get all the stories out that I want. I won't get to all we talked before about traveling. I won't get all the spots done, and that's okay though, because that's part of life. So what am I going to do? I'm going to enjoy the moments I have. I'm going to enjoy those stories I have, and they're also, and I think it's a positive. I'm not going to settle for them and go, okay, well, I wrote The Body Man and I wrote Breach of Trust, and I've got 4 more books or 3 more books coming out after that in the next year and a half that I'm planning to do. Those aren't going to make me happy necessarily as well. There's always going to be that desire to what's next? What's
yes,
next?
agreed.
So that brings me to my final question, which is kind of in that world, and it's out of the blue probably because you haven't seen the podcast yet. But I've been asking everybody generally the same question: is
Okay.
as a writer, life really is a book. You've got a first page, you have a last page. None of us know how many pages are between that first and last page, but Morgan, you are a writer. You've done some pretty amazing things, and you have the ability to write that last page. So, what does that last page say?
Oh my gosh. Are you trying to
It's
be
a
emotional?
simple question, isn't it? Come
It's
on.
not. If you could see me, like I have tears in my eyes.
Don't don't cry. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Oh my
And
gosh.
there's no wrong answer either.
You know, I I believe in life after death. I do. I'm very religious. I'm very
Mhm.
spiritual. And I know the time on this earth is very short, but I mean in regards to, well, so it has to do with writing, right?
It,
Or no?
you're writing your last page. It's whatever you want to say is on that last page. Whatever you're giving, whatever, there's no rules. It's a
Yeah.
silly question from someone that didn't want to end on a bad note every time I do
I
an interview.
know.
So
Yeah. I mean, I picture myself. I mean, I'm going to say the word 80 years old, even though that used to seem old, but it's not anymore. You know, the older I get, I'm like, okay, 80 is not that old.
I'm 47. It's like, oh crap, man.
No,
How many more Christmases is that? What in the world?
I know. Like, I want to be on my deathbed and to look back and say these words, I did it. That's what I want. I know what is most important.
Hmm.
My kids, my family, being a good person, trying to serve, trying to be kind,
Yeah.
always loving everyone. Yes, my writing goals are so important and they like fill me with passion and desire every single day of my life. But at the end of my page, I want to be there with my family and even thinking about my writing life and saying, I did it. I did it.
You did do it. So good job.
I've
Thank you.
closed the cover.
Thank you. I like that answer. So transitioning it to now marketing 101, someone wants to find out more about Morgan Shamy and buy your books. What's the best resource? Where's the best place for them to go?
Oh goodness. I suppose, I try to keep my website updated,
Mhm.
morganshammy.com, but I probably have the biggest following on Twitter. I have a lot of people there. So, you know, life updates, writing advice, go to my Twitter, which is just Morgan Shammy. And then I'm pretty much everywhere else too. Aren't all of us writers? We're just everywhere.
I think we have to be. It's called Sales 101 because for some weird reason, there's not people out there screaming at the top of their lungs to go buy our books. So
Yeah.
we get
Yeah.
to do it.
I know. So yeah, I'm pretty much everywhere. Every platform, I'm there.
Awesome.
So
Well, thank you for coming on, Morgan. I appreciate it and congratulations. And I'm looking forward to hearing more good news in the future.
thank you, Eric. Thank
You're,
you.
you're welcome.